Hi everyone, so let's just go over the ES and crude and the opportunity that was available today. Of course, you know, it's the same thing over and over again, right? So we're going to take a look at this trend. First thing is to take a look at the trend, right? And we're going to take a look at it on the hourly time frame, and you see every single time there's a higher high. Every single time. You have a higher high here, you have a higher high here, you got another higher high here, right? And finally you have another crazy higher high up there. Every single rally high comes from, every single one, spring, 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 even this one, spring, and spring. You see, every single higher high that's been made, right, all comes from springs. Spring, 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 spring. And you know what's funny? I think all of them were set up with upthrusts. Here's the upthrust of that wave, and bingo, spring, boom. There's a minor upthrust here, led to a spring, boom. Here, upthrust here, hit the spring, boom. Back in upthrust position, spring, boom. Here again, upthrust, sets up the spring, boom. Like clockwork. And you know what's crazy? If you take a look at the, what's it called? Crude on the downtrend has the same thing. Same thing. The upthrusts in an uptrend set up the spring, which sets up the rally. Alright? The rally or the higher high. Again, this is the upthrust right here above this high. This is the upthrust right here. Hits the spring, get the rally high. This upthrust hits the spring, set up the rally high, which was still in upthrust position because it didn't follow through. So what did it do? Hit another spring until you hit the rally high. Here you have upthrust, sets up a spring, and goes ballistic. So this is what I'm trying to explain, because I thought I made a mistake before. I thought, like, consolidations, who cares, just wait and this and that, or just try to get a pullback. But there is a method to this. And if I'm showing you 5 rallies in a row that have that same consistent behavior, right? Or even if the majority of them have it, and then I show you another market like crude that have the same thing, then it's not random, it's a principle, and that principle has logic and purpose behind it. And basically, you got to get short covering to make the higher high. The only way you're going to make short covering is if you make a lower low. So this is in reference to David's book, where he talks about, one of the ways trading ranges are resolved is springs. The other is apexes. And third is time manipulation, where for an extended period of time, it just goes sideways, 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 and then just breaks out. But one way to do it is springs, and that's very actionable and tradable. So that's why he used to trade that. All right, so this is the point I'm trying to get across, is the importance of springs, and springs that lead to resolving the consolidation, resolving the pullback in order to make higher highs. All right, so springs give you higher highs. 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 You see? And there's no interpretation. This, I'm showing you mechanical signals. All right, but one interesting thing is there's an upthrust first and then hits the spring. So it's like they go on both sides of the range. Now I know that when you hit a spring, it is a washout, and washout means that it's a stop run, right? And B, new shorts can enter, and then their covering can help with the rally. All right, so springs are a washout. I'll give you an example, like this one here. This one is a very obvious one, like not obvious, but very deep spring. But it's still a spring, and I have logic that I know how to identify it, all that shit. But it goes here, and then boom. Anyway, so that's the point I'm trying to make. So this is, I don't know how else to explain, but this is before I wasn't too crazy about springs and all that, but now I can clearly see because of the indications about and then you can kind of like get intuition. So for example, I explained that they do the up thrust typically before the spring, and boom, right? And if that up thrust does not have follow through, expect a second spring. You see this spring, it hit the high, but it didn't break. It didn't break. It broke out, but it didn't follow through. It had a green bar, and then it just stopped and had a red bar. When that happens, expect a second spring. That's what happens. Even here, this right bar was in spring position, couldn't really break. So they did a spring a little deeper, and it was all against this breakout, which brings me to the second thing. And the second thing is, springs have a tendency. They have a tendency to be against breakout bars. The green bar, the breakout bar, springs have a tendency to go into them and then rally. So we'll take a look at this. Here is the breakout bar. At this point, I just have it color coded because it just makes things easier to see. This one's too big, so I'm not going to use it, even though spring went into it, right? But it's too big. But this is a breakout. It gets sprung and then goes, right? This is a breakout. This is a breakout. Whichever one you want to use. Bingo. Tap. Boom. And again, this is the breakout. Where is the box? There. So, I do a little, anyway. You see, the breakout gets tapped, retapped, and then goes. But executing this the right way, like perfectly, is not easy. All right, it's not easy. So you really, because sometimes you're gonna get stopped out no matter what you do, even though you're directionally right and everything. It just, things don't go your way, and you just have to know how to get back in, and also to deal with the fear and all of that, and fear of loss and fear of being wrong and all that. So that requires a little bit of skill, and also not having too large size. Otherwise, you can't re-enter because the first loss is going to prevent you from taking the second re-entry after you're right, but you just get stopped. I'll give you an example. All right, so here you had all this consolidation. This went up, right? So I know that once, oh no, what did I do? Anyway, so this breaks out, right? All right, now look at what it did when it pulled back here. It hit the spring of this low. right? Now, if this was genuine selling, guess what? You wouldn't have a rally, which is the biggest rally in 19 waves. No way. Right? So now it's all a matter of getting in, but they were really, really slick, because what they did was respring. All right, I'll show you that. So below this line, right, this is the rally. This is the initial direction. That's where it's going to go, by the way. That's the direction it's going to go. All right, but as I explained to you, you're going to get sprung. So here's the spring. Here, from this spring, you have this rally. Okay. When it goes up, it comes back down and it holds. And then buyer pressure comes from that spring, meaning here, from that low, boom. Right? You see this buying pressure. This market is going to go higher. These initial longs that are here have been washed out. And the market fails to follow through on the downside and reclaims support. And not only that, rallies. So, you know, if this was selling pressure really strong, it cannot have this bounce back. And I'm going to explain it using David's analogy in his book, right? He talks about it. He says, when you have a spring, he views it as a boxing match. So supply punches the boxer out the ring, meaning out of the low, below the low, out of the ring, below the trading range. When supply punches demand out of the ring, you do not expect the boxer to come back with renewed vigor. Can the boxer come back with renewed vigor? Does the boxer come back with renewed vigor? Does demand come back with renewed vigor? If supply punches demand out the ring, demand should not be coming back with renewed vigor. It does. In fact, this wave is that boxer who got knocked out of the ring but comes right back really, really strong. And this was an example, an analogy in David's book. And I went over it, so you can go see that, right? So this renewed vigor over here is telling you, I'm not going down, I'm going up. And that's what it did. But the one goddamn thing that it messed up everything was that it resprang the low by like a tick or two or something. See? Right here. And then it went. Instead of like rally, pull back, go, rally, pull back, one little dip, and then go. And look what happened. So the one thing, if you're a spring trader, spring or up thrust trader, and you want to know the details of this method, right? Always remember, even if you have a spring, it can be sprung again. If you have a spring of a level, it can get sprung again. So you just have to be ready and have that in your mind, so that if you do get stopped out, you can get back in if it does not have follow through to the downside and starts coming back in, closes above the low, strong close above the low. All right, meaning it does not have follow through, comes back, closes above, and that's what happens. All right, so I went over ES. I think there was another something in the crude. This really pissed me off today. All right, so the market, it was actually, these guys fought back. Demand really fought back right here. I don't know what the hell is going on here. Delete. All right, you see over here, it was in upthrust position, and it was going to go down, and a lot of heavy selling came. This is the biggest wave in 16 waves. Right above that high, it was in upthrust position. From upthrust position, selling came in, right? Selling came in, and these bars here are pretty strong. I don't know how strong they are, but I thought it was strong. This is the biggest in 61 bars, and the biggest in 19 down bars. So this is heavy selling. Pressure, pressure, pressure. But what happened was, on the pullback, they reaccumulated. You see the sideways action? They won't let supply break the market. So there's nothing you can do about this. You just got to take the L. Be like, okay, you win, done. This there's two situations. One where the sellers generally are trying to break the market, but demand just comes in. And the second is a spring getting another spring, or an upthrust getting another upthrust. So these are the two situations that the only thing you have is your stop, and the psychological ability to re-enter. And in this case, don't re-enter, just accept the L, and have the psychological ability to have patience and wait for the next trade. You need the psychological ability to re-enter on the spring of a spring or upthrust of upthrust, because that's what happens sometimes. And you also need the psychological skill of accepting the L and being patient for the next trade, so you don't try to battle it and say, oh, let me try again and let me try again. So those skills are not really talked about in books, or those you have to have practice. Anyway, over here, so you had this is real good selling. It goes up, they attempt to break right here. You can see the candle, but it keeps on going sideways, 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 and boom, breaks out, and up she goes. So where is it going to go? I don't know, but there's heavy selling on these areas. So I am expecting, yeah, you'll see. It's going to probably spring and then upthrust and then break. You'll see. All right, take care. Bye.